Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 24th episode of our first YouTube run through Book of Hours. We have unlocked the nave of the Abbey Church. I think we've already had the Gloomy Stair available to us, so we already knew that it was 6 Edge, 6 Forge, and 6 Winter, but I didn't say the Veiled Chamber, which is 9 Heart, 9 Lantern, 9 Moon, or 9 Winter. So this is a little bit of a more challenging opening for us. I've noticed in general what I wind up doing is I actually go up and around to access it, just because there's a few more simpler locations that I can get. But again, we're playing in a different way each time, so we'll see what comes up. But I did leave the night sort of. I think I said we were going to start the day next time, and then I wound up taking like 10 minutes to talk about upgrading skills. So in this case here, I'll unpause the game. We'll let our cataloging happen overnight. Again, I did wind up with a little bit of bad luck with Sickle and Eclipse, just because I can level that up to number 2. But I am going to need a memory for that. Alright, so we've got the Rose of Nuriel, a 10 Grail tech. So I think that's one we should be able to handle. I'm going to put that on the on this shelf here. I'm not going... Actually, it's just as easy for me to be able to get the Fear, and more importantly, I'm able to verify that the 7 Faces of Icarus is a Fear tech. So I'm going to take the minute there, and that's just in preparation for upgrading Sickle and Eclipse. Now, I'm trying to think... I feel like there was a Tryst book that I might have wanted to read. Okay, Sunny Day, so that's a Lantern and Sky combination. I think just because I've got quite a bit open in terms of my elements of the soul, we will pick up Mrs. Kill just as a memory generator. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything with that Sky. We did get the Damascene Traditions of the House of Leith, so we've got 1 Faust, we take that, 2 with the Astrolabe, 2 from the Sunny Day, and then I'm trying to remember, I think we're stuck with 2 from all of my other... Yeah, so we can go up to 6. Well, with that in mind, I suppose then if I were to get a Storm, let's say, then I could get 2 Sky from that, and we would at least be able to take a chance. I think I'd actually be willing to do that in this case. And then with Desires and Dissolutions, we've got 5 for the Rose of Nuriel, 7 with the Arab, 8 with the Spices, so then we take Satisfaction, so that's definitely one that we can read. So Book of the Centipede I'll leave aside. It's something I want to try, but I'm not quite ready to yet. I'm going to see if I can... Crossing at Noon feels like one I should be able to read. It's getting a little more organized in here. I also need to remember that I have other texts in the Keeper's Lodge. Okay. So I suppose the next question is, do I want to put this all on the health? Well, okay, here's what I'll do. So the Rose of Nuriel I will use with Arab. Okay, so the Arab and the Faust are spoken for. And I think the core I'll probably use to do some more gardening. And in this case, we can actually get the Shining Pear. Not that I really need it, but it's a chance. Like I said, it's just a chance for me to get a little bit of everything. So we'll use that right now. Fragrant Pears, soft in the hand. So the Tryst is going to be used to upgrade Sickle and Eclipse. So that means that I basically have Fet available for me. So tell you what, I think I'm actually going to sit on that Fet for a little while. I may even go for a run at the Book of the Centipede with this. But we'll see what happens with my... you know what? We're going to put that up here. Okay. Oh yes, and I suppose I can't use her to unlock the library now. But that's fine, because I think core gardening with core makes sense. Midway's a system, as somber as autumn, as kind as autumn. She also likes her beer. So we're holding off on cataloging for a little while, but I think for largely good reasons. The Seven Faces of Icarus, in the early 1530s, the last abbot of St. Brendan's, called Roaring Richard, set down his conversations with the illiterate local cunning man, Red William. Red William describes the 7 forms in which he goes about and under the world: viper, cat, fox, eagle, dove, boar, and crow. Abbot Richard ingeniously fits these all into a framework of solar belief. According to Abbot Richard, each of Red William's forms is closer to the sun and is increasingly winged with virtue. Richard draws an analogy with the waxen wings of Icarus. Hypocrisy and false virtue will melt before the sun's heat, and so sincerity and untrammeled expression of the self are the utmost piety. It's worth noting that only a year or two after Richard wrote this book, John Tregonwell was so appalled by the debaucheries of the monks of St. Brendan's that he recommended the monastery's immediate dissolution. Okay, so we verified our fear inventory. So I think in order to... let's start with... I'll read Thackeray's Herbery first. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And then we will commit Sickle and Eclipse to a higher level. Alright, there's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms if you haven't already committed it. And there it is, and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So it's always interesting when I get winter. The catch here is that there aren't any winter instruments so far as I can tell. At least I haven't encountered any yet for the purposes of this game. When I say instruments, I mean tools. So given the fact that I don't have the whist, and in fact I would not be surprised if I have... So I know Sights and Sensations is winter. I think I said earlier it's kind of... I like to think of it as winter music. But I don't think... I have anything higher than 1. Which, again, may be enough still, right? If we have a 4 winter text, we can at least leave that to chance. All right. I think we'll save consider for a while. Oh, okay, we got another fear. There it is, and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. If I wind up with a solace, I'll actually be able to get her to unlock the librarian's quarters. Fragrant pears, soft in the hand. So we'll put those on the table in here. Oops. Apparently we're putting them on the bridge. Let's try that again. A bowl of sea-blessed pears, smooth as butter and wonderfully juicy. Okay. Yeah, I'm still... I think I might take a crack at the Book of the Centipede the more I think about it. But I would like to have a couple of factors working in my favor before I do that. Alright, now I am curious to see whether or not we've got what it takes to be able to read this text. Did I... Let me make sure that I have what it takes. That was very silly of me. Yeah, I had the tryst ready to go, and I used the Arab like a fool. Okay, so this was 10 Grail. Yeah, so it is the Arab is available to me. All right, so I suppose the question now is, what do I want to do with the tryst? I should have some options, but for now we will use the Arab to gain some rest and refreshment. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese in nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Okay. So, I suppose with the crossing to noon, if I were to get... So this would also take the lunar globe, so I want to be careful about that. So if I were to take my tryst, I would combine that with desires and dissolution, so that brings us up to 5. 6 with the lunar globe. So then we just need a memory with 2. So that really is within our power. So I think I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this. So the Devoured Tantra should give us a confounding parable. If I was really brave, I would see the intuition pile. Oh, we are getting very lucky here. So we will upgrade her with the Solace. I can discuss this memory with my assistant. This book will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. So I'm not worrying about the sky. Oh, actually, I made a bit of a blunder here. I should have gone for the sky so that I can take advantage of the sunny day. You know what? I'm going to use the Fet with Apollo and Marsyas in this case because I'm getting a little too close to the end of the day for comfort. Actually, we'll just read what does not bark. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So no effort on Book of the Centipede here, but it's just because I'm sort of looking at the reality of how much time I have left in the day. We're still making pretty good progress in terms of our readings. Sort of threw myself off with the mistake with the Arab. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. The Devoured Tantra warns of the use... Sorry, I should probably read at the start. So, the diplomat priest Stanislav John Schaller transcribed this from the library of a Redlong, but his manuscript remains in a private collection in Karasham. The Devoured Tantra warns of the uses and dangers of appetite, but devotes an entire passage to the star-limbed hunger-bringers, who it describes with obvious affection. So we combine that with exorcism for girls to do the laundry. A million blazing fires in the belly engulf what has been swallowed by the multiform mouths. Okay, so let's get our ducks in a row for... Okay, so I suppose this is the time... Yeah, so I'm using both desires and dissolutions and a confounding parable. So I get to pick... I basically get to pick this, or I get to pick the book... Well, sorry, we already said that we're not doing the Book of the Centipede, but equally importantly, it's also going to decide whether or not I can read the Rose of Nuriel. So I sort of bungled twice over. All right, Moon, a culmination. I can master this mystery. What I might hope for is I might be able to pull an all-nighter with the Arab here. Because all this is going to get me is... this is only going to get me an influence if I use it at the Sweet Bones. We should be getting our sky from Natan's desk in a little bit. But yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a bumpy ride for the rest of the day. And we'll catalog. Catalog a Dawn Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Dawn Period, sometime before the end of the first millennium, commonly reckoned. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Oh, another satisfaction, fair enough. Alright. Alexander Props writes, warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star, or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so the Hours can make use of them? So there's our storm memory. So again, we're taking a chance here. I also need to remember. Well, that's fine. We have Lantern and Sky available to us elsewhere. So higher Sky level Applebright Euphonies should help. Should also maybe move Sickle and Eclipse up so that I can take advantage of the higher edge. Alright, so we take our storm memory. We will also add the astrolabe. So the idea here is that we're going to be adding an 8 sky challenge, but we're doing so with a sunny day, which means that we have both the memory and the weather that we can apply. So perhaps you provided sky, but not enough to match mystery sky. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. Generally, we've gotten lucky, but there's been a couple of times where I wind up with disappointment. Okay, the Silver Book. This is one that's in a language we don't understand, so... Oop. We're out of space up here, so I'm actually running out of overflow space, too. I can move some of these down into the other, this other room again. I'll leave it be though. Alright, this book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Dawn Period, sometime before the end of the first millennium, commonly reckoned. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So by my reckoning, we only have 4 more books to read until we open up the librarian's quarters. Once we've read everything, I think that will be when I go to heal the health. And I do want to keep generating the memories as much as I can, just because we are attempting a couple of challenging texts. Okay, the Ivory Book. Similar story to the Iron Book. Okay, so we are going to put the Wound Wounds and the 26 Enticement, 7 Torments in that room. There we go. So yeah, this is going to be a bit hair-raising with the Grail text, but I think as long as I can start it, I'll be happy. And then we'll see what comes up with the Damascene Traditions of the House of Leith. Okay, so they want 2 Awen and Epiphany, so there's literally nothing that we can do. We're just going to sit and see what happens. I am curious what the results are. I'm not going to remember them because I can never remember these, but... I would guess that Epiphany would probably be the closest to Sky of the two, but... Oh, and Divine Inspiration, or just the right breath of air at the right moment. So, as the sun is coarse, Joel of the Bridge, retired soldier and sometimes tollkeeper, wrote this epic poem about Alexander's famously inexplicable decision at Issus to withdraw from the war with the Achaemenids and his subsequent return to Macedonia. One that, again, I'm running out of space for. Okay, back to the solar period. And let's see what the Awen gives us. Ah! Well, there you go. Alright, so I don't think there's really not that much else for us to do, right? we got what we needed out of this, out of the challenge. We're already at 10 Sky. So I think we'll put Mrs. Kill to work opening the abandoned librarian's quarters. A bright haven on the house's seaward side, innocent of protections and menacing influences, though it'll take some work to set it right and clean it. So the last thing that we want is, or for today, is to have this finish in time to start the Grail text. Okay, Damascene traditions of the House of Leith. The House of Leith was an order of immortals who sought obscurity, rejecting their past and future. If the author of this short text is to be believed, the initiates of the Damascene branch were much more radical than their fellows elsewhere. The house generally forbade any potential procreative activities for fear of the terrible consequences of too long bearing a child. The Damascene order took this much further. At one point, male initiates were required to undergo castration and female initiates to strangle any children they had previously born. These measures were so horrific that the order was shaken by repeated schisms and eventually absorbed into the local Sisterhood of the Knot as a society of healers and exorcists. So this gives us an impulse. And Sacralamea, 2 of them. So one... This is a little bit of a shame because it would have been nice to... Actually, we might still have the time if we can somehow boost this... Faust and Trist will work, although the Trist is already occupied. We'll give it a shot. We'll probably wind up exhausting it for the next day, though, but having the Impulse will be nice. So I'll put this with the Impulse books. We're actually getting quite a few of those. But yeah, let's give this a shot. Rest and refreshments. Alright, so the crossing to noon. The mystic Garcia Sauri gives a picturesque account of the adventures of Franklin Bancroft, Prince of Wines, and Ava de Wolf, the Pale Lady, on their way to the hidden island of Noon. For a long time, the Blackbone pondered her next move, until the moon dared to peep from behind a cloud, and the prince completed the composition of his third sestina. But the lady met the blind gaze of its open pores, waiting for the tide. Garcia Sauri acknowledges in an epilogue that it is widely known that Ava in fact tragically drowned herself and her twin infant granddaughters without ever making such a journey, but, he adds contemptuously, it is also widely known that the city unbuilt will so remain, that only one history is ever written, and that Janus is a Mansus prank. So this is another salt memory and sea stories. Okay. So I'm not going to be able to commit everything to higher levels, but we will do our best. So I believe the sea does not regret, the crossing to noon. Both of these are salt memories. And like I said, we're going to have the Arab occupied for the overnight, but we are going to be able to make some progress here. Okay. The Rose of Nuriel, a volume of collected teachings of the Sisterhood of the Knot, that arcane contemplative order that existed in all histories, but in some was very powerful indeed. This was recorded by Nuriel and dedicated to Saint Tryphon. So, let's commit Sacrament Lamea first. And then the hope here is that I'm going to be able to boost it with... Oop. Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. Cardea's Delights, the third volume of Abbot Geoffrey's hypothetical theological dialogues in the Socratic mode. I'm just putting this here mostly for space. I guess I don't really need to worry about the sunny weather anymore. Okay, night has fallen, dawn will come soon. Yeah, we're not really taking chances on any books anymore. In this case, we're just waiting to try and get the elements of the soul that are relevant to upgrades. So we're trying Sacra Lamea first, then we'll do sea stories. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms, and this will be level 2 off the top. In fact, we'll make space for both. So I want to be pretty quick with the recovery of the Faust. I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. The instruments of the heart. We do have core, but I think we're... Like the drums and dances help, so let's say that that's 4 with the tools, 6 with the... Yeah, we only get up to 8 with the memory, so it's one of those ones that we try... Like, if we read all of our other books, it's one of those ones that we try to get with a... with like an extra, you know, hoping that we get lucky, basically. Although we have a few books like that, so it'll certainly keep us occupied. Okay, so I'll take a look at the librarian's quarters in a minute. Nice. Okay, better now. So I don't exactly need to like fall over myself and spend money to make this work. It's just it's a load off my mind to be able to take advantage of these. It just means that I don't use my health in other ways. Okay, so let's take a look at the librarian's quarters. Lots of books, so we're going to stay sick for a while, I think. When the Curia of the Isle acquired the deed to the abandoned De Wolf estate, where Ambrose Westcott became the first librarian, and had this cozy nook constructed above the north wing to fit his preferences. His successor, Kitty, preferred the room next door. She lamented that the reek of Westcott's pipe remained long after his death, and her successor, Solomon Husher, preferred the Long Tower for his own chilly reasons. But most librarians have enjoyed the peace of the sea view. This is a pale bust, a delicate-featured young woman. The inscription reads, Abra Southey. Alright, the librarian bed. Okay, so this is actually one that I would be able to recover in, however, my health is already occupied. So librarians are prone to backache, and the mattress here has always been a hard one, even in Westcott's time. The librarian's armchair, a sea-colored star-ornamented armchair. The footstool, a sea-colored star-ornamented footstool. The twinned fish stone, this stone disc is lighter than it should be, and the surface is soapy smooth. Half-faceless face, a mask to fit a face that at the very least began as human. The inscribed stone, a stone tablet with rows of badly worn scratches that once probably were writing. A bunch of books, The God's Return, a green shoot splits a rock. Librarian's timepiece, one of Ambrose Westcott's appalling Rococo enthusiasms. This one, less ugly than some, was suffered to remain by his sentimental successors. Librarian's glasses. They're not lenses, just plain glass, but a certain sort of visitor is disappointed by a librarian who doesn't wear glasses. And then an assortment of plants. So we've got a watering can. This is good for nectar for as a tool. A potted avidity, a lush and hungry ornament. A potted pink orchid, a little smudge of dawn. A pot of malachite daisies. Thomas de Wolfe was fond of these. It's not what you'd expect from Thomas de Wolfe. A potted fern, a pleasantly primitive plant. a potted white orchid, a little smudge of snow. Potted bamboo, water it, and you can almost hear it growing. We also have the fringed lamp, a cozy little nightlight. And a fireplace. Even when the wind buffets at the windows, the fire in the hearth keeps the room cozy. So we'll start with the baronial period books. Move on to Curia, and then we'll read the Solar at the end. I forgot there were so many books in here. Okay, so for well, I guess we're at the end of our time together, so this would be a good place to wrap it up. Yeah, so we haven't finished, we haven't even really started the text yet. We're cataloging. But yeah, I think this is actually a good place to end. It's also very, very, I think at this point it's better to say that it's early. But yeah, I do need to get a little bit better at my sleeping pattern, so it wouldn't hurt for me to wrap it up here. But I do have a pretty clear set of priorities for Monday's broadcast. We're going to commit Sea Stories for the start. We'll probably wind up doing the same thing that we did with Mrs. Kill tomorrow. We'll use the Arab to bring her in, and then if we get a Grail or a Moon Memory, that's just, so much the better. As far as texts for us to read, I'm not 100% sure what we're going to get out of the books here, but generally these are more challenging. So our most likely candidates, I suppose, would be the Book of the Centipede. Yeah. I'm just trying to order these in terms of how easy it is for me to read some of these. All of these are quite challenging, so I'll leave those aside. Those are impossible for me to read right now. I suppose technically if I can read the Barry book, I can read De Ratio Quercum, but I don't have space for them. The 12 Lantern I still think is a bit ambitious. Like, we don't really have, we've gotten some new skills, but we don't really have any skills that give us a higher intensity of Lantern. We don't have the metal yet. Rose of Woznai. So we take the Watchman's Paradoxes, we take the Faust, we take... Yeah, so I mean, really, this should probably be sitting beside, instead of Cardea's Delights, we should probably be putting the Rose of Woznai in this collection. Tantra of Worms seems like a possibility too. So with 8 scale, let's say we took a Memory Fear. Okay, so we can get 4 between the Tool, the Health, Memory Fear. Yeah, well, I suppose that answers it for me then. Because then we go up to... Well, I mean, at that point, that just makes that the same as any of these other texts. So... Leonine Tantra, 8 Edge Mystery. With Sickle and Eclipse, we've got 3. With Edge, with Arab, we've got 4. Memory brings us up to 6, 7. So yeah, same story there. Okay, so yeah, again, we've got a lot of these where we're in shooting distance. Let me think of Sickle and Eclipse again. So Sickle and Eclipse with Arab is 4. We add a contradiction, which would be 6. We add the Tool, which is 7, but we are still 1 short. Of course, there's... I talk about it this way. There is an outside option, right? We have Perniculate, which gives us 4 edge and 4 scale. The problem here is that what if I want to use this on a higher level text? When we're talking about sort of phases, what I've been doing throughout this playthrough right now is just, okay, is this within my current ability? Like, you kind of notice what I've been doing. Most of the things that I've been handling have been cases where I say, with my current set of abilities, am I able to handle this challenge right now? Because those are very straightforward, particularly when, you don't have a random component to it. You just sort of go through the motions. That's a pretty efficient use of time just because you're able to move up and build up. And that is just going to sort of raise the level of things that you can do naturally. And then once I start hitting the limits of those, then I start saying, okay, well, let's maybe deal with some of the probabilistic ones, because there aren't other obvious steps to do. And likewise, I can say, okay, well, maybe now I start committing things to the Tree of Wisdom so that I can bring in even, I can bring more skills to bear. But even without committing things to the Tree of Wisdoms, we've gotten pretty far inside of the library, and we still have more books to catalog. And these are going to be books that are more likely to be at my skill level because they're sort of baronial and curia era. So, again, I'm not going out of my way not to commit things, but as it is, there's a lot that I can just do if I have enough time. And once I exhaust those options, then I can sort of move into the next phases. So I'm not opposed to using things like Perniculate at a desk to be able to read a difficult edge text, but wouldn't it be nice if maybe I go from being able to read something like an 8 to a 12 edge text or even higher, rather than just sort of use this to handle something that with a couple of improvements or maybe like boosting a skill, I would be able to read under other circumstances. And so that's why I've been reluctant to use those ones. If I was able to make Perniculate through other means, I'd be more willing, but right now that's not available to me. Anyways, I wound up extending the video longer just for explanations. Oh, sorry, there was one other one. We had Ambrose Westcott was the first librarian. We read that description in the librarian's quarters. So we will move his, I believe it is a brass statue. So there's Kitty. There we go. Yeah, that's good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I suppose I will see you all on Monday for more Book of Hours. Take care.